Hi, cities. How are you doing? Welcome to Sim. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. One thing that I've known is that no matter how educated you are as a black person, how high profile you are, how rich you are, there is always someone like this that is looking for a way to humble you, let you know that you do not belong or you are not qualified enough. You know what I call all these things? Things like this are people with inferiority complex because a person that has confidence will not want to downgrade someone because if she or he feels like this person is doing better than me and then went ahead to question your education and wanting to know, I don't know what it's going to happen to your life after when you leave United States of America and all that. What made you think that the person is not educated? The fact that some people do not even understand that they live with the most educated demographic, black women are the most educated demographic. I am so proud of that sister because at the court where they had that match, you could hear people booing her. And let me tell you that something, this wasn't just a tennis drama or a game drama. This was actually a rate deceased attack. And things like this should be taken seriously. And sincerely speaking, she actually needs to be fined because coming for people for no reason is not allowed. You don't have to bully people because they won the game. Learn to take. Let's get into this video.
There was drama at the US Open today, is what you're going to see some accounts saying, but personally, I wouldn't call it drama. I would call it one athlete saying something racist and another athlete having to deal with the fact that something racist was just said to them. Hey, I'm Coach Jackie, and let's talk about this. So today at the US Open, Taylor Townsend played Yelena Ostapenko. Taylor won the game in 2 sets, dominating the second set 6-1. So after the match, they shake hands, and then they start talking, and it's clear from their conversation that Yelena is not happy with the loss. I'll just let it play out for a second. You can hear the crowd start cheering for Taylor. She's an American. It's a home crowd. Really, they're more like booing Yelena. Then Taylor was interviewed, and she said that this is what Yelena said when they were talking.
People get upset when they lose, and you can't. Some people say bad things. She told me I have no class, I have no education, and to see what happens when we get outside the U.S. So I'm looking forward to it.
You're going to respond to losing a tennis match by telling your opponent they're uneducated and classless? Like, I'm not sure how that's related to sports literally at all. Like, you don't have to talk around it. It's racism. And not that any of her comments are rooted in reason, but this is the way that Taylor reacted at the end of that conversation. You know, the one who she called classless. She said, "You can learn how to take a loss better. Thank you so much. Great job, great play." And then promptly went over and celebrated her US Open win and got the crowd extra amped up because she deserves that. She does not deserve to have her win undermined. And especially got them cheering so Yelena could hear it, which I think is awesome. But on a real note, when these kind of microaggressions or just aggressions happen to black athletes, we do like juicy gossip drama reporting on it. And then when the same thing happens to white athletes, we do serious think pieces. Like, we need to understand the obvious bias here. Yelena needs to be held accountable for saying something racist to someone who just beat her at tennis because she was better than her on the day. That's just what happened. I love Taylor Townsend and I love women's sports.
Saying I have no education and no class, I don't really take that personally because I know that it's so far from the truth and so far from anything. And again, if I allow what other people have to say about me affect me in that way, then they win. So ultimately, no, I stood up for myself and I kept in my mind in that moment how I wanted to portray myself and how I wanted to show up. And if my son were to see this interaction, how would he view it? And I think he would be proud of the way that I handled the situation.
When I say I'm super proud of how Taylor handled herself after that match with, I don't know if her name is Jelena, whatever, how she handled that match with her and she won, and she went to go shake her hand, and the girl has the audacity to call her uneducated and classless. What? You just lost. And this ain't your first time losing against her. This is a many times of you losing against her. But it's also crazy that you're known for being a sore loser. You're known for that. Like, if anything, get your weight up, come back and try to win against her. But to talk trash and you lost? Like, you gotta be so butthurt to call a person uneducated for a tennis match. What does my education have to do with this current tennis match that you couldn't beat me in? You couldn't win. But it shows your character. It shows that you're a sore loser. And that's all that you've been hearing about that girl, is that she's a sore loser. I'm so proud of how Taylor handled herself. She spoke up. She didn't even use the race card and say that old girl intent was racist. She said, I don't know what her intent was, but I know she lost. And we all know that. You lost real bad. You looked real bad. They need to give you some coaching skills on how not to be a sore loser. It's one thing to talk trash when y'all are playing or whatever the case, but after you done lost, girl, you ain't got
Oh, so SpongeBob SquarePants, who lives in a pineapple under the sea and got her ass whooped on the tennis court the other day, decided to tell that little girl that she had no class and no education. Now, here's my thing. It is deplorable. It is reprehensible. What I want us to remember, that when they go low, we're in a season of going to the earth's core, bitch. Collectively, I'm going to meet you at the magma. Because when they asked her, was that a racist dog whistle? She said, no, I don't know. It's not the truth about me, representing my people. And I love that for you, sister. I do, because somebody taught you that and you were raised well. But me, I was raised to knuck if you buck. Crime mob, ho. I don't have that respectability politic up on me. I'm off that narcotic. Been off it. So the idea that you could do something wholly and disrespectfully racist, and I don't say that, is a foreign concept to me. Meanwhile, they have literal advertisements for ICE that are openly racist right now. They are building an all-white town. National Guard is being deployed as Trump's own personal paramilitary troops. So the idea that in our faces they would be able to play like this and we would take the high road is unconscionable to me. No, ma'am. No, I got the spirit of Harriet on me. I have the shotgun on my back. And she said, if you think about turning back, don't forget, ho, I got the shotgun on my back.
Ain't nothing like a sore loser. And that lady in that tennis match, she just showed us that she's nothing but a sore loser. Because for you to tell Taylor that she has no class and no education because she whooped your ass is crazy. And then threaten her and say, wait till you outside the U.S. What that mean? You gotta watch your words on here. But I'll get you outside the U.S. I'm telling you, a black woman can't never shine. She can't never shine. She remind me of that lady that lost, I think Coco, and she was sitting down crying, having like a little tantrum. Yeah. I remember that. And then the fact that you tell her she don't have no education, what makes you think she ain't got no education? I'm just curious. Because we both at the U.S. Open. We both here competing against each other. So what makes you think I ain't got no education?
Congratulations, Arena Sabalenka. The heat is finally off you, girl. You can sleep easy now because, man, I love the US Open because even though the time zones are very challenging, I wake up every morning with no idea what I missed. I mean, it could be anything from an upset to, any kind of crash out, but nothing prepared me for today's crash out or last night's crash out, depending on where you are in the world. Because my word, Yelena Ostapenko, I don't know what's wrong with you, girl. Like, you need to calm down. And you know what? I'm not really a fan of either Yelena Ostapenko or Taylor Townsend, but I was really glad to see how Taylor kept her cool and kind of just let Yelena have this whole crash out from losing. There's a few things that Yelena addressed. Okay, so number one, the warm-up. I scoured the internet for anything around warm-ups and the order in which they're meant to warm up different shots. I didn't find anything. I'm happy to be corrected on this, but all I found was that warm-ups are usually 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the tournament, etc. But it's more based on time and the fact that it's not a practice. You're meant to hit the ball directly to your opponent, and that's it. And the assumption is you definitely warmed up before getting onto the court, so it's really just to get used to the feel of the court. Secondly, Yelena also talked about how Taylor Townsend didn't apologize when the ball hit the net cord and then went over. That is not a rule. That is etiquette. And a lot of players don't do it because honestly, I think it's kind of disingenuous when they do that because they're not sorry. They won the point. And that's the objective of the game. So, you know, as much as, yes, it is etiquette and whatever, I don't think anyone should kind of be particularly mad if a player doesn't apologize because it is what it is. The point is to get the ball over the net. Now, in terms of the post-match crash out after the handshake, you know, calling Taylor Townsend uneducated, it's a weird direction to go in when you're having an argument with another tennis player because I'm assuming they all kind of have the same level of education at that point, which is like high school, okay? And it's interesting because Taylor actually handled herself really well in the press conference where she was like, I don't know if what she said was racially charged. You're going to have to ask her. And she was talking about how proud she was, the way she handled herself, and how she let the tennis racket do all the talking, and how she thought about how her son would react if he saw this later in his life. And I think that's really powerful and really classy of her to have that stance and not to kind of steer into what the press was saying and how they wanted her to come onto, you know, a public forum and say Yelena Ostapenko is a racist.
What Taylor Townsend experienced at the U.S. Open isn't just on-court drama, it's racism. And I'll tell you why. Little recap though, in case you haven't seen it. So it's the second round of the U.S. Open, and Yelena Ostapenko, former French Open champion and seeded 25 at the tournament, plays Taylor Townsend, who's the current world #1 in doubles, also a Grand Slam champion in doubles. Now, Yelena Ostapenko is from Latvia. Taylor Townsend is from America. She's African-American. Taylor beats Yelena in straight sets. If you don't know tennis, that means Yelena didn't win a set. So they walk up to the net after the match, and Taylor's smiling. She's ready to exchange, you know, the traditional, like, good games after the match. But Yelena's upset, and she's upset because of some unwritten rules in tennis. One, that when you start warming up for the match, you're supposed to start, in her head, at the baseline. Taylor's a doubles specialist, so she usually starts her warm-ups at the net. Not a big deal, but Yelena, of course, makes a big deal out of it. Not surprising if you watched any of Yelena's matches. Anyways, there's another point in the match where Taylor hits a ball and it hits the net, but goes over. Taylor ends up winning the point. Now, a lot of people in tennis, when that happens and they win the point, they'll apologize. But it's not a requirement, it's not a rule. Especially when, like, it hitting the net doesn't decide the point. Taylor doesn't do that, Yelena gets upset. But it's what Yelena said after the match that's really problematic. Yelena says that Taylor has no class, no education, and that things only went the way they did because they're playing in Taylor's homeland. And that Taylor better be ready for when they play outside of the U.S. Accusing a black player, who's one of the greatest ambassadors for the sport at the moment, by the way, never had any history of being an unfair opponent, of having no class and no education? Are you serious, Yelena? That is so racist. And it's interesting because it's not an isolated thing. Like, this is something we've heard before from certain players when it comes to certain players. Go all the way back to 1999 at the U.S. Open when Serena Williams won her first of 6 U.S. Open titles. Martina Hingis gets upset with both Serena and Venus, and she starts making comments about Serena in particular all the way down through the years. First saying that Venus and Serena have a big mouth and they just talk a lot and that's who they are and it happened before, it's going to happen again. Just completely generalizing them based off of stereotypes. And then going on later to say that Serena has no finesse in her game, no style in her game, it's just like brute raw power. Denying the outright racism that Serena and Venus face at Indian Wells. Just so many examples of things that she said about Serena over the years. We've seen players try to check Arthur Fields, a black player from France, trying to act like he doesn't understand the rules of tennis. I mean, this whole thing of like certain players, again, thinking that they are like the gatekeepers of tennis tradition, and that any player who doesn't follow like whatever rules they have in their mind that aren't in any rule book, that they don't have class, that they don't have an education. I mean, why do you jump straight to the education thing when it comes to certain players? Let's talk about it. Because again, Yelena's not particularly known as like the Einstein of the tour, nor is she known by anybody to be a particularly classy player. I mean, for Jelena Ostapenko, of all people, to think that she even has a sliver of a hope of authority to dictate whether or not somebody's classy, good night. And then the other piece of it, this whole homeland thing. I mean, that is another thing that has come up in tennis. I think a lot of players, whether they would admit it or not, are not happy with the idea that players are now finally receiving the benefits of belonging to the biggest tennis powerhouse in the world. And I say starting to because look at what Serena and Venus went through in the US. Again, earlier I mentioned Indian Wells, California, their home state, being called the N-word in the stands. Serena being booed after winning the final. Not to mention everything that Serena faced over the years of the US Open. In fact, Venus, who just made her 25th appearance in singles at the US Open, talked about how like this experience of playing this year was like the most support she's ever received at the tournament. In her 25th appearance. African American players are just starting to get that level of support at their home tournament. And you can tell that players like Jelena Ostapenko are rattled by that. To them, it's like, well, I don't have a major tournament in my homeland. Why does she get to have one? Why does she get to have an audience full of people cheering her on against me? Well, if you thought it was bad this time, good luck next time you play in New York. Because you really messed up this time, Jelena. Wrong road. Not to mention, and this is the last thing. Okay, the US Open this year is dedicated to Althea Gibson. If you don't know, she broke the color barrier in tennis. First black player to win a major title. Inspiration to pretty much every black tennis player that came after her. For you, Jelena, to say what you said on this particular year when we are celebrating the breaking of the color barrier in tennis. This whole thing of players feeling like they're the gatekeepers of tennis, like it needs to stop. It's 2025. I mean, shoot, I experienced it playing in high school. Like just on my little high school level, like everybody knew I was huge on integrity. Still am. Like I will give opponents certain calls if I'm not 100% sure, even if I'm 99% sure. And yet and still, this one kid's mom couldn't help herself but accuse me of cheating because she couldn't believe that I was a better player than her son and that I was voted captain of the team. And that's what it goes back to. Why does Taylor get to beat me? Why does Taylor get to have a crowd full of people rooting for her? Why does Taylor think that she can decide what unwritten rules she subscribes to? Because she's the baddest on the court, and who's gonna check her? You? Well, look how that's going. The whole world is flaming you right now. So next time you decide to step to a world number one like that, really think about whether or not it's worth it. Because now you got a whole bunch of egg on your face. And let me tell you, we will never forget the way you treated Taylor. So congrats, Taylor. Keep shining on them. Keep winning. Keep being the baddest. And yeah, I hope everybody in New York goes out to support Taylor in her matches. Show Jelena how much we back her in her homeland.
So I don't know what's in the air in 2025, but it seems like to be the year of just bitter tennis players. First, of course, we've had the bitter comments from Aryna Sabalenka during the French Open final, which I already made a video about. And now it seems like we just got some bitter comments from Jelena Ostapenko. So we are in the middle of the US Open for the women's singles, and Taylor Townsend actually upset Jelena Ostapenko. Now, after the match, there seemed to have been a back and forth, a little bit of an altercation between Jelena and Taylor. And while talking with the reporters, Taylor did say that Jelena told her that she had no class, that she had no education, and to basically see what happens when she steps outside the United States. You can see the full comments down here. And I just want to know two things. One, Jelena, why are you so bitter? Like, have you not learned from Sabalenka during the French Open final? Like, just take the L and move on. Like, there's no reason to go over and attack someone like this because you lost. Like, just take the L. And two, the fact that you told someone that they have no class and no education and to see what happens when you step outside the United States, it's kind of giving a little bit of a threat. Like, if I were the reporters, I would want to ask Yelena, like, what do you mean exactly by those statements? Like, what exactly did you mean by that? Either way, I just think Yelena is an absolute sore loser, and congratulations to Taylor for moving on in the US Open. What do you think?
Taylor Townsend won the US Open, and instead of congratulations, her opponent, Jelena Ostapenko, decided to call her classless and uneducated. I want you to remember something. I want you to keep that inside of you. Whatever people say about you is the reflection of their own insecurity. I'm not telling you that you're not supposed to take people's criticism, but I want you to remember something. Their word reflects them, not you.
Yelena Ostapenko has no idea what she's about to go through because the Shade Room just posted her heated exchange after her US Open match with Taylor Townsend, in which she told Taylor that she had no class and no education and to wait to see what happens when they get outside of the US. For context, this all started when Taylor hit a net cord, and if you don't watch tennis, a net cord is basically when you hit the ball and it clips the net. This can cause the ball to bounce awkwardly in a way that makes it more difficult for your opponent to reach it. It can go a lot of different ways. It's basically kind of like a lucky break depending on how the ball bounces. So when people win a point where there's a net cord, they usually give like a sorry hand gesture as sort of like a courtesy to their opponent, but it is in no way a rule or a requirement of the game. Some people do it, some people don't. So when Taylor hit the net cord and she won the point, she did not apologize. And you could see Yelena stay at the net, kind of like waiting for an apology. And it was at that point that she first called Taylor uneducated. After the match, when they went to shake hands, that's when Yelena started saying all that stuff I said. And Taylor basically told her, you need to learn how to take a loss better. I haven't seen it for Yelena ever since she got them Senegalese twists and turned all the comments off on her Instagram. Because, girl, what are we doing? And speaking of comments, people are already acting a fool under all of Yelena's posts. They're even on her cooking page, giving her the blues. And this whole Shade Room posting thing is only going to make it worse. But girl, you made your bed. But I have to say, Taylor did exactly what needed to be done in her response. You can watch her full press conference on the US Open YouTube. But this bottom part right here, she said, the thing that I'm most proud of is that I let my racket talk. Because ultimately, I'm the one sitting in front of you guys, moving on to the next round, getting the next check, moving on, being able to sit here and speak to you guys. And that's what's most important. She's packed up and she's gone. I'm here, and that's the only thing that matters. And that's on period. Ultimately, Taylor chalked it up to a competition and just Yelena being upset that she lost. And that really is what it is. Like, this is not an issue that you really needed to press this hard. Let me know what you think in the comments.
So let's break this all the way down. So Taylor Townsend just beat Yelena Ostapenko in straight sets at the US Open yesterday. And instead of shaking hands like a professional, Ostapenko walks up and says, you have no class, no education. Let's see what happens when we play outside the United States. So while she's saying this, she's literally pointing at Taylor's face and jabbing her finger down toward her like she's trying to shrink her, put her in her place. That's not just disrespect, it's intimidation. It's visual domination. And when it's done to a Black woman on a world stage, it's not just personal, it's political. Telling a Black woman she has no education is not random. That's a dog whistle. It's the same rhetoric that's been weaponized for centuries to strip Black women of our intellect, our value, our place. And it's always used when we win, when we disrupt the narrative, when we dare to take up space. And no class, another tired line meant to shame us when we don't smile and shrink. Townsend didn't gloat. She didn't disrespect anyone. She won. And suddenly that's a problem. So then when she says, let's see what happens when we play outside the United States, what are you really saying? That she only wins because of some imagined home court advantage? Or is it a warning that outside the United States, a Black woman like Townsend will get put back in her place? That's not a tennis critique. That's racialized language. That's veiled aggression. And in that moment, pointing in her face, speaking down to her, dripping with entitlement, it wasn't just about losing a match. It was about punishing a Black woman for daring to be excellent in a space that wasn't built for her. And through all of that, Townsend stood tall and said, I'll let my racket talk. That is grace. That's composure. That is what real class looks like. Now, I want to see that same professionalism from the United States Tennis Association and the U.S. Open leadership. Ostapenko should be fined. There needs to be disciplinary action because when Black athletes are met with hostility, verbal or physical, and nothing is done, the message is clear. You're going to protect the game, but not the people in it. If the roles were reversed, if this behavior had been directed at a white player, it wouldn't even be up for debate. It would be action, immediate and loud. Racism in sports doesn't always show up in slurs. Sometimes it's in the tone, the words, the body language, the finger in the face, the need to diminish and dominate. And if the tennis world stays silent now, you're telling Black athletes exactly where you stand.
So we just gonna ignore the fact that little Miss Jelena Ostapenko decided that she was gonna go to Taylor Townsend after the U.S. Open second round and have words with her because she lost. Yeah, she said, and you can pause and read what she said. Yeah, that's what she said. So my question is, why is she arrested? Didn't she threaten? Isn't that a threat? Isn't that a threat? And Miss Taylor, you handled that with such class, such dignity, because Lord knows if you had have taken that to any other level, things would have went left for you. It would not have went in your favor. So I'm so glad that you upheld your poise and you were so much better than that. It's the same thing that happened with Venus and Serena Williams, the same thing that happened with Coco Gauff. You guys get on the court and you play against them and you lose, but you can't take the fact that you're losing to them. They were the better opponent. If you want to beat them, you do it the old
This
way.
is all I got from this video. I saw this video this morning, and first thing I said was like, they have started again. I remember the one that happened, how many years? I think last 2 years or last year. Samumba, she, I think after her sports this thing with one white woman, that people were very mad at the white woman, and she was like, please tell your fans to stop coming to me. They are bullying me. They are threatening me. Stuff like that. Right on the stage where Townsend, Jelena, and where they had that match, right? At the tennis, you could hear people booing her, the white woman, telling her that what she was doing wasn't good. Sincerely speaking, there are some things you see. You are like, wait, at what stage or what time will these people understand that it's okay for them to be defeated by a Black person? Because they feel like they are undefeated, I don't know if it's not being able to take, I mean, like, you lost and you couldn't take it or something. But there are some things you tell people, you say to people that looks personal. Because at this point in time, I felt like whatever was going on here was like a personal problem, but it's not. It was just her being pissed and mad that a black woman beat her. And then for her to crown it, it looks like she doesn't even know the kind of people like black people are educated, especially black women. And then she brought her education into it. I am going to see what will happen after, like, when you are outside US, like what happens after US. Oh my goodness. It wasn't just a tennis drama. On a very serious note, it was a racist attack. And some people think that they are entitled, to win. Some people think that you are not supposed to be active as a black person. Some people think that you do not deserve anything. Some people think that no matter what is happening to you as a black person, you do not deserve it. I remember the other day saying that no matter how rich, no matter how educated, no matter how high class a black woman is, there is a white person looking for a way to humble you, to tell you that I don't know you. I do not see your class. I do not see your education. I do not see all those things that people know you for. This is what happened. The fact that some people do not see, she would have just ran. Like, yeah, I am better off and all that. But you are not even better off, because if you were better, you would have won. See, I know it's game. It is game. And I am analyzing this. Why? Because she messed up. She flopped up right there by asking her, let's see what you're going to do after when you're out. What is supposed to happen to her when she's not in US? So you don't know that black women are the most educated demographic. You don't know all this. You don't know all this. Man, sometimes I don't know how you will tackle and handle all these things, but sometimes I love the fact that the only thing I do is go to work, come back, do this video, and straight up in my bed when it is time to sleep. Because now, I won't be doing this. I remember kicking somebody's butt, a brown man's butt at the bus station, when he thought that, I have seen a black woman, and for that reason, I might, probably do something to a black woman. That day, that was the day I knew that my face was really very active. And it is still very active till now, because you can mess around with me. Don't worry, I think I will tell you guys about one racist thing that happened to me. I think I changed the number, right? So it looks like the number that I changed, somebody probably may have, how they recycle numbers. Somebody probably may have used the number, right? So, and somebody, at some point I was getting called from that number, and the language is not my language, So I was like, oh, somebody may have used, and not just one, not two, not three, several calls. So one day somebody wrote me, he was like, he wrote me, he's like, salam, I say hi. And the person was like, So I think the person saw my profile picture, was like, so this is a nigger. I am saying this because this was what I read. I translated it. I didn't understand it at first. I translated it, and this was what that thing said in, like, the text said. I don't know this person, nothing. And guess what? That day, it was on text. That day, I fired, told him how all his entire family are, and then sent it. The person read it, and I blocked the person. Boom! Deleted all, like, blocked everything, deleted. That day was like the best day of my life. I didn't see the person to speak to the person, but the person thought, yeah, I can see her profile. Let me humble her a little bit. Some people are weird than me, but not in my world. I am learning to handle them and put them where they belong. I am going to draw the curtain here. I will see you all in my next video. Bye for now.